Shaking on Shakedown Street. Used to be the heart of town. Some of this town ain't got no heart.
Hi everybody, Monday. Real fast, just to review it. I think in the very first video I put that map up there. And I'm going to ask you on the test the same map, and I gave you the answers on the first video. It had the four pieces of the United States we're about to gain in this unit, how we got them. And so you should know the answer to the first one, Texas. Texas joins the United States by choice. The next one that we're going to deal with is the top left corner of that map and the Oregon country. We're gonna get that next. When Lewis and Clark are there in 1803, 1804. When they're there in 1804, it's Indians. You have the Spanish on the coast of California, but there's no white people living in Oregon. It's so far. Matter of fact, most people wouldn't even know how to get there. That being said, early on, Great Britain, Spain, Russia, and the United States are all saying that it belongs to them. Now, it's easy to say, hey, that's mine. Ultimately, if you have nobody there, it's hard to claim it and defend it. And so you have all four countries that are saying that the Oregon country belongs to them. As the 1800s go along, those claims are going to start to go away. Spain will actually be the first one to give up their claim to Oregon territory, and they'll give that up as part of the Adams-Onis Treaty. And if you remember the Adams-Onis Treaty, we got Florida after Andrew Jackson's invasion, and we gave up parts of our claim to what was then Texas, and drew the border along the river. The Russians in 1824 will give up their claim to Oregon, and so that's only going to leave the United States and Britain claiming the Oregon territory. And the United States and Britain in 1818, the Treaty 1818, where we draw the line at 49 degrees, will also at that point in time agree to share Oregon. And so Oregon's going to become occupied, shared by both countries. And now it's just going to be a matter of who can fill that up first, because it was the same concern that Napoleon had with Louisiana. If Americans would fill it up, whether it was belonged to the French or not, eventually the United States would just take it. Britain going to have very few people there. That their main concern there is the fur trade, and that's even with Canada. French settlers in Canada came because of business. They didn't. If you went back to the French-Indian War, most of the French here were because of the fur trade and business, and the English settlers were here to stay and live. It'll be the same. What's the word? It'll be the same sort of. Same thing going on, same motivation for them when it comes to Oregon. But it's going to start to change. Americans are going to start to move there. Interesting, and all these things kind of tie together, and I don't want to take a lot of time here with this, but with the introduction of the cotton gin and the Industrial Revolution and the textile industry, the fur that was coming out of the United States isn't as popular anymore, and so the value of those furs start to decrease. It's harder to make money trapping and being out in the mountains, and so what happens for a lot of those guys who are fur traders and who have been out there into the great unknown, places where Lewis and Clark, and they'll follow them, those fur trappers are going to change professions. They're going to go from being fur trappers, where they now can't make any money doing it, to being guides for people who want to go out west and who want to go to California, to Oregon, and eventually to California also. And so there's going to be these people who are willing, who've been there, know how to get there, know the dangers involved, who are now going to sell their services to people who want to move and take their chances in places like Oregon and California. I don't know if you know this, we think like Oregon, Washington, those places, we think, man, it rains there. It actually rains here in western Pennsylvania more than it rains in Seattle. Thousands of people are going to start to find out about this place. Let's face it, Oregon, Washington State, with today's Washington State, great soil, really good weather, lots of water. You know, it's like the western Pennsylvania frontier in the 1750s. And if you can get there first, you get the claims to the best land. And so it's very, very, very attractive for a lot of people. And people are going to start to go there. They'll be encouraged by newspapers. A lot of people are going to move in 1837 with the economic depression that's going to happen because of the National Bank thing with Andrew Jackson, and Van Buren becomes blamed for it. It wasn't really his. The United States is going to establish a territorial government in 1843, and they're going to start offering land grants for people to move there. And so we go back to where we started, you know, it sort of becomes a race between us and the British, but they're not really in the race. And so it's a one-man, as long as we can get people there eventually, as far as we're concerned, become ours. If you move to Oregon, you're going to be offered 640 acres, which was the same if you moved to Texas. It's 1 square mile. And so people who don't really have a lot to lose and you know, are looking for something better, who are probably mostly younger and willing to take the chance, are going to go, and it's going to be a lot of people. Obviously, the Indian tribes that are there are not going to be happy when all these white people show up. That being said, it'll be a lot harder for the government, at least early on, to send armies that far away to protect them. But the population there is going to increase slowly over the 1830s, 1840s, into the 1850s. And this will also lead to the British being pretty upset about all the people there. And so how did they get there? Well, these people travel on what was known as the Oregon Trail. The Oregon Trail is going to go across the United States. It'll split in what is today, I think, like Colorado or so, and from there you would either choose going north to Oregon or southwest to California. 2,000 miles long, and really this is very, very similar, and we spent a lot of time with Lewis and Clark. This is similar to their experience. The difference is they have someone taking them who knows where they're going, and there's probably more of them in most cases with these wagon trains. What is not different is the obstacles that are in their way, natural disasters, or the weather, and natural obstacles. It's not this like pretty easy trip. You're not going to Disneyland, trust me. And so you better be ready for the haul when you go, and you need to leave at the right time, and you need to have someone who knows what they're doing, and et cetera, et cetera. Most of these trains leaving from Oregon left from one of 3 places. I think these are on the test: St. Louis, Missouri; Independence, Missouri; or Council Bluff, Iowa. It's interesting. If I wanted to go to Oregon, and I'm living in the 1840s, I would probably leave for one of these places in September or October, and that would give me time to get there, get myself settled, find other people who are going to accumulate there, make sort of friends or dealings with people, or finding groups of people who I thought I could trust and who had other skills, and then trying to create some kind of conglomerate to pitch in our money to pay the guides to all kind of move together at the exact same time. But these 3 places were the 3 places that these settlers would collect before they left. You have to decide when you're going to leave. I'm not sure if it's in here or not, but early April into May. I mean, if you leave too early, the rivers are still high. There's a lot of rain. There's a lot of bad weather. If you leave late, you get to the Rockies, you get to the Sierra Nevadas, and there's snow, and you get stuck. And so this whole thing is real dicey right from the get-go. The trail followed the Platte and Sweetwater rivers over the Great Plains, and after it crosses the Rocky Mountains, it split. I already told you. One trail went to Oregon, one trail went to California. Usually left in the early spring. Like I said, you got to time it right, and there's a lot of luck involved. It lasts 6 months, so you leave in April. You got April, May, June, July, August. Even Lewis and Clark, when they got to the Rocky Mountains, it was August, and they were looking at the top of the mountains, and it was snowing up there, and they were super concerned. These people were sort of in the same boat. For you to go, you needed about $600 worth of supplies. In today's money, in 2015, that'd be $16,000. You needed a wagon, you needed all these different things. If you were to go to the Heinz History Center, they have a Conestoga wagon there, and that thing is just massive. This is a long trip. This is going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be sickness. There's going to be illness. There's going to be snakes. There are, the number of obstacles and the things that could kill you are really gigantic. Wagon trains are usually made up of young families. 1 in every 5 people on the trail was a kid, and they're going to run into problems with shortages of water and supplies and wagons breaking. And that's why it was important early on, when you got to Council Bluff or Missouri, one of these places, you wanted to put a group together, but you wanted to have a doctor in the group. You wanted to have a wheelwright in the group. You wanted to have a carpenter in the group. You wanted to have people with different skills to try to improve your chances of getting there. And often people would get sick and they weren't real sure about disease. If you got sick or your family got sick, a lot of times they wouldn't let you go with the rest of the wagon train. So like I said, it's extraordinarily dangerous, and you get a chance to experience some of this in a really kind of corny way here in a few minutes. Travelers fought rough weather, natural barriers, storms, hurricanes, rivers, mountain valleys, etc. Traveled from dusk to dawn every day. I'm not sure how well you can see the picture there, but I'm imagining this guy here was probably drinking and driving. I'm not really sure. Cooking, caring for the animals, unpacking, pitching tents, caring for the kid. That stuff's all done while the train stops. Okay, so a couple of things here. Number one, I'm going to put this link that you see up here. I'm going to put this link on a page for you to go get and to watch it. I can't force you to do it. It is super duper corny. This dude who's going to do this thing is the biggest nerd in the entire world. But he's going to play a game called the Oregon Trail. It's 5 or 6 minutes. You can watch him play it. It will help you. Underneath this link, and I'll put it on the resource page, underneath this link, I'm also going to put a link to the actual Oregon Trail game itself if you'd like to play it and try it. My son personally loves it. You get to name the people in your party, and if I get typhoid and die, or I get bit by a snake, or I break my leg, or whatever the case, anytime I die, he just cracks up. He just thinks it's hilarious, and it's like 1980s. It's super funny, but it's a lot of fun. And so I'm gonna put those 2 links there for you. You can download the game on your computer. It doesn't matter what kind you have, but it's a lot of fun. Like I said, my kid loves playing it. I have a lot of kids every year from class say, "Oh, I remember playing that before," but it's fun, and you can take your buddies and list them. So there you go. That's the start of the Oregon Trail for you, and how we get Oregon. I'll put these 2 links there. I know, trust me, you will laugh if you watch this one I'm going to post with this kid playing it. Super freaking nerd, like Noah Livesey. And then you have the link to the game itself. I think you'll really enjoy it. Give you something to do, and you can decide. You'll see. All right. Hey, listen. That's Monday. Hope's all's well, and I'll see you around.
Shaking on Shakedown Street.